the tour was 10 minutes old, everyone knew that it was going to be happy and picturesque. You think they cheer loudly in Lambeth? You want to hear them in Lagos. This day belonged to the people of Lagos. Our turn came another day. The crew and the Duke were going to inspect the squadron, so you can imagine how the morning was spent. It may not be the best haircut he's had. I wouldn't mind betting it was the quickest and the cheapest. When inspections are due, there's always a bit of a flap. But no one would have guessed it once the moment we'd been working up to arrived. This honour bestowed on the squadron by the Queen was a wonderful beginning to our African journey. Apart from this inspection, there'd been an informal dinner with our own force commander sitting next to the Queen, and she'd shown the greatest interest in our squadron and its history. The fact that at the beginning of the war, when we flew Wellingtons, No. 9 Squadron took part in the first RAF bombing raid of the war, and later played a prominent part in the night raids on Germany, and how together with No. 617 Squadron, the dambusters, it helped sink the German battleship Tirpitz. These and other events go to make our squadron's own story. And here we were in Nigeria writing another piece of it, proud to be playing our part in this memorable royal tour. And now they were off to Kaduna. The Viking would do it in about 2 hours 20. We were due to salute the Queen on her arrival, so we left 90 minutes after the Viking, which gives you some idea of our speed. The following day we left for Accra on the Gold Coast. Here we would be on our own. No royal tour, just us and our cameras. And we felt the flag over the governor's residence was flying for us. The sight of our Canberra certainly caused something of a stir, especially at the airfield. And the welcome given to our force commander and to all of us by the officials of the Gold Coast government, led by the Prime Minister, Dr. Nkrumah, was as open and as genuine as their smiling faces. Everyone, of course, wanted to come over for a closer look. Husbands may have been a little quicker off the mark, but that only proves that ladies all over the world are the same when it comes to looking at complicated machinery. The VIPs were given a trip in the Canberra. One of us flew, Dr. Nkrumah, and the governor was taken up by the Air Marshal himself. The air display we gave them on the Saturday morning was a big success. And that mile of curved beach and cliffs between the Christian Borg Castle and the Harbour Lighthouse, what an ideal setting it made. You know we had about 50,000 people there, and as everywhere they liked our low-level flying. But I think it was the steep climbs and the rolls everyone enjoyed the most. They really brought the house down. When our 3-day visit to Accra was over, we resumed our royal tour duties, giving flypasts wherever we were commanded. For 12 days we were stationed near the 1,000-year-old walled city of Kano in Nigeria. And what an incredible place that is. It's ruled by an emir, and I'd heard so much about him that I thought that white building down there must be his palace. It turned out to be a brand new mosque. Kano has its own airport and its own way of talking you down, for no one, not even the Queen, can land until the emir's trumpeter has blown the okay. The emir is a splendid figure. The day he came to see us, his whole court came too, in 20 large cars. It was a return visit. For the day before, the Air Marshal, his deputy, and the squadron commander had been received by the emir in his palace. Do you know what intrigued our visitors most? The fact that a plane can fly without a propeller. The things we take for granted were remarkable to the people we visited. We were always finding that. And of course it worked both ways. And you know, we didn't need any tourist attractions. Just to be treated as welcome visitors was enough. To me, their houses made of mud, as they were 1,000 years ago, their costumes, the market, was a whole new world. There was that peaceful ancient town outside Kano itself, called Dambata, where we were received by the chief. While we were there, Mr. Morley, the district officer, looked after us. 50 years ago, he told me, Dambata was a little different. If anyone went too far outside his home, he was quite likely to find himself dodging a spear thrown from the next door village. It really was difficult to believe as we strolled in the evening air, and it says a lot for the tireless work of the district officers. There was tireless work of a different kind back at Kano Airport. The local people had asked if they could polish the planes. To show we appreciated their friendliness and hospitality, we gave them the sight and the sound of the Canberra in action. And in that African dusk, 100,000 people stood and cheered as we tore across their sky. We'd waited for sundown because it was cooler, and we wanted to avoid colliding with the vultures and hawks, which by that hour should have been in bed. But 3 of us smacked right into them. We got off much lighter than they did. I've heard jets called by other names, especially by the people back home who live around the airdrome. But it was at Freetown in Sierra Leone that I came across a new name for them. It seemed that the typical jet noise reminded the local people of a whistling kettle. And as their one word for everything that flies is chicken, the Canberras became known as steam chickens. That's certainly one memory I took back with me. The other was when we were refueling to leave for Bathurst. It wasn't how it was done, although that was pretty primitive, doing it from those drums. No, it was the fact that while we were topping up, the band came to play for us. That reminds me, I must have a word with the Royal Air Force Director of Music and see if he can't lay on this music while you work at our station. After Freetown, we had one more territory to visit before turning for home. We were off to Bathurst in the Gambia for the last of our displays. You always get a big crowd at a display, but that apart, wherever a plane is in the sky, eyes search it out, which is strange really, considering people have been flying for over 50 years. At Bathurst that day, I know the governor was watching us with a look not far short of envy. He'd asked for a flight and got it. He'd also asked to be given the works, and who were we to argue with the governor? The Air Marshal said goodbye for us. So ended our final display and our journey to the tropics. Though in the Gambia, I remember, it was more like an English summer's day at its best. It was a little difficult to believe it wouldn't be exactly the same when we arrived back home. I should have known better. It was still winter, and while we'd had to cover the cockpits to keep off the sun, our families had been legging the pipes to keep out the frost. We'd spent 5 weeks in Africa, and I'm not pretending that I know it now. But once you've been there and liked it, it'll grip you more strongly than you realize and be forever pulling you back. 3¼ hours ago, I'd waved goodbye to Africa, and back in England, only a part of me had arrived. But eventually, I caught up with myself and happily swapped my tropical tan for a pink nose and a bunch of blue fingers. And that went for all of us, for we were glad to be home and with our families.